So God is saying, He gave me this word this morning when I was in the shower, and He's saying that at this time and for the last while now, there's been people that are jealous and envious. Not all are your opposers, but some of them are your opposers. But there's people in general that are jealous and envious of those that prophesy, right? Those that put out prophetic words, they're jealous and envious of that gift. They wish that they could do that. Some of them are followers of the Lord and they're righteous and just, it's like a righteous envy where like they wish that they could do that, right? And the Lord says that because the prophetic gift is of the Lord, it's kind of like, I can't remember the scripture exactly, but it's like, if you're going to boast about the things of the Lord, because that's more understandable. Like, don't boast at all, but if you are going to boast, then, or if you're going to brag about the way that the things of the Lord and the way the Lord does things, right? So it's similar to that, where the Lord would rather have people be jealous and envious over the fact that of your spiritual gifts that He gave you, like your gift of prophecy and such, than rather be jealous of, like, say, your house or your job or, something materialistic, right? Something from the world. But what God is saying is, I put out a word a while back talking about how He's going to be raising up apostolic, anointed prophetic voices. And I meant that for men and women, but women in particular. And so for myself, I wasn't in I didn't know anything about my prophetic gift or about others having prophetic gifts or the world of prophecy or even social media platform prophecy, right? On like TikTok and YouTube. I didn't know about any of this a few years back. I just got into this myself like 2 years ago or so, approximately. The Lord had put me on the path. And now I know now in hindsight that it was because what I'm doing now today, putting these words out, this is where He was leading me to, right? But it wasn't overnight. I didn't just wake up one morning and all of a sudden I had this prophetic gift and off I went. I had to go through a lot of trial and error, and I had to leave the world behind, and I had to basically leave everything I knew behind, like my old self, my family members, friends. Like, I literally went into my own isolation where it was just me, myself, and I, and my kids, and the Lord, of course. And the Lord was pruning me and taking me through lots of different trials. I was betrayed. I was slandered, gossiped about, lied to, lots of heartbreak, lots of hurts, went through lack, different, just mental attacks, physical attacks, financial attacks, spiritual and emotional attacks. I also fasted a lot, had to learn how to work with like almost nothing in every way emotionally, work with emotional bankruptcy, a financial bankruptcy, physical bankruptcy, and I had to, to get by, right? What else? I had to learn how to read my Bible on a daily basis, not just here or there, but every day, and like talking to God about the word, meditating on the word, trying to, I would spend 20 minutes reading over one scripture over and over, just trying to understand what God was trying to say to me, speaking to God all the time, attending church service every Sunday without fail, praise and worship, praying every day, then even humbling myself to where if I wanted to take care of myself, and God was like, no, you're in how it says in the Bible, put on sackcloth, you're in mourning, don't use any lotions or oils or things like that. That's what the Lord would do to me, like kind of put me in that state where no, you can't use any, things to help you feel more comfortable physically, mentally, emotionally, like how we all have our comforts. The Lord would take those from me. So there's a lot that goes into being able to prophecy, and I'm not the only one. Pretty much every prophetic voice that I know of that's true and genuine, they too have a testimony where they too had to go through their trials and their struggles first, right? And the Lord has shown me throughout my trial and error time, the book of Esther, and about the part how it says that Esther had to go through 12 months of treatments, 12 months of beauty treatments, right? And so it just says that to kind of condense it. But what I read into it for beauty treatments is beauty treatments on the outside, but also beauty treatments on the inside. So she had to basically do 6 months of internal beautification and then external beautification, right? So the Lord is obviously more concerned. Like, if you're a woman of God, you're going to be beautiful regardless. But the Lord is more concerned with beautifying your insides, right? So a lot of the prophetic voices that I've tuned in and heard their testimonies are similar to mine in the way that they say, like, you know, they didn't just wake up one day prophesying either. They too had to give up the sins, give up the comforts of the world, be willing to be looked down upon and, you know, become a pruned down version of themselves and go without and be put through the fire and the testing and multiple times over, right? And also become more, die to themselves basically and be obedient and put the Lord first, not themselves, not their man, not their family, but the Lord first, right? And also cultivating a relationship with Jesus too. It can't just be God-based. It also has to be where you realize that Jesus is, you know, your deliverer and your healer and your provider and your protector. So there's a lot that goes in to cultivating and harvesting your prophetic gift, right? And the other thing too is not every single person, male and female, is able to prophesy, and not every single person has the prophetic gift, right? So that's why the Lord talks about who he has chosen. There are parts in the Bible that says, I'm not a respecter of persons, I don't show favoritism, but then that contradicts, because then there's other parts of the Bible that talks about how there are chosen ones. And I mean, the 144,000, the Israelites, you know, he chose Moses, he chose Esther. Well, he chose Esther. King Xerxes chose Esther, but God obviously put Esther in the position in the first place for King Xerxes to choose, right? Same with, say, Ruth and Boaz. Boaz chose Ruth, but God chose Ruth to be the woman that Boaz chose. So he chose Jeremiah as a prophet, you know, Elijah, Ezekiel. So, and he chose Gideon, right? I could go on and on. He chose Joseph, he chose Job. So pretty much the whole Bible is full of people that were chosen by God, right? And I imagine back in the biblical times, there was hundreds of people. There was more than the ones we read about in the Bible, right? So not every, and even Jesus chose 12 disciples. So not every single person is chosen, even though people like to reference parts of the Bible that talk about how God says, I'm not a respecter, but like I say, fair, but then there's other parts that insinuate that he does choose, right? So I guess, you know, again, you'd have to have spiritual ears to understand what I'm trying to say, and reading the Bible for yourself and understanding. So with that said, God does choose people who he gives different gifts to. Like, for example, amazing singers like Mariah Carey, obviously he chose to give her that amazing voice. I don't have that amazing voice. God made me, God made her, but she has an incredible voice. I don't have that voice, right? Michael Jordan is really amazing at basketball. You know, I'm not good at basketball. God made him, God made me, but he has a gift for basketball. So just like how we see people have gifts and talents when it comes to doing math or solving math problems, designing things, you know, engineers, singers, whether it's talents with their hands, their mind, their voice, whatever, we're aware that we see that not all humans are made exactly the same. You may have gifts in these areas, and I have gifts in these areas, and someone has gifts in these areas, right? So can every single person in the world sing like nicely, carry a nice tune? No, they can't, right? Not everyone can. Well, it's the same idea. Not every single person can prophesy. God chose who he chose to give a nice singing voice to, and God chose who he chose to give athletic ability to, and God chose who he chose to give prophetic gifts to. So there's some out there that think they have prophetic gifts, but they truly actually don't. Their gifts are in other ways. God has blessed them in other ways. So for instance, Mariah Carey is blessed with the amazing voice, but she probably can't prophesy, right? Whereas I don't have the amazing voice, but I can prophesy. So The gifts are in different areas. So he's just saying he's telling me there's people that are envious of those that have prophetic gift. And God is saying to those that are righteous and have that envy, he can understand that, no different than I may be envious of Mariah Carey being able to sing so nice and I can't, right? As opposed to being envious of her money or her fame. Because something came from the Lord and something came from the world. But he's saying, so it depends. So if you're righteous and you're being envious, it's more forgivable than if you're wicked and you're being envious, because obviously that's being generated by Satan, right? And that there are some that have the prophetic gift, but they just don't realize it yet. No different than there's little children right now, babies being born, right, that have amazing singing voices and they just don't know it yet, because obviously how can a 6-month-old know that they have an incredible voice and at 16 they're going to be a world-renowned singer when they're 6-month-old? They don't know it yet, right? But they have that gift in them. It just needs to wait and be cultivated when they develop. It's the same thing with you with your prophetic gift, is that you do have a prophetic gift. Some of you have a prophetic gift inside, but you're like kind of like a baby Christian, right? So just like a baby can't exercise their athletic abilities or exercise their amazing vocals. But as they age and develop and mature and gain understanding of themselves and their surroundings, they will be able to implement it, right? It's the same thing with your prophetic gift. He says there's some that haven't came to the journey yet, but he's tapping them on the shoulder and waking them up to the journey on a day-to-day basis. And there's some that have just started the journey and they're going to eventually 2-3 years from now be prophesying, because they do have the gift, but they have to go through their testing and trial and error and firing like the other prophetic voices had to, in order to cultivate and harvest it, right? No different than, say, like a singer will sometimes need to take vocal lessons. They have the talent, the raw talent, it's there, but it needs to be cultivated and shaped and tuned, fine-tuned and things like that, right? To improve even better through experience. And that's the same thing, and training. That's the same thing with the prophetic gift. It needs to be trained and practiced and harvested and tuned, just like your basketball skills would be, or your voice training would be, your vocals, things like that, right? So he's saying there are some that have the raw gift and they're just starting the journey recently, and in time down the road, once they go through their tuning and training period, they're going to discover their gift and be able to use it. And that then there's others that think they have the gift, but they really don't. Just like there's people that think they can sing really well and they can't, not compared to someone else anyway. And then there's people that think they're really good at a certain sport, but perhaps they're not, or maybe they're just okay at it, right? So he's saying there's some that think that, but instead their gifts lay somewhere else. And if they were to go to God and ask, hey, God, where's my gifts? What did you give me? I understand I don't have athletic ability, or I don't have the vocals, but what have you given me, right? The Lord will then be able to lead you to where your talents lay. But because there's some that are so focused on trying to, A, covet things that they don't have, and B, try to stall or stop or halt those that do have the gift, it's not only not working, but it's causing them to basically be at a standstill, stuck position in their life, because they just need to accept that they don't have that specific gift. It doesn't mean they don't have any gifts, they just don't have that specific gift. And instead of being envious about it, they should be trying to find out from the Lord where their gifts lay, right? So that's a message for someone. So somebody, I wouldn't be making this message for no reason, so that must go out to someone. For someone, and that's for someone who's more wicked and unrighteous. For those that aren't wicked and they are righteous and they do have a close relationship with the Lord, and you wish that you could prophecy and have the prophetic gift, Perhaps you maybe do. You just need to get a little more information from the Lord to discern that. But you can still work for the Lord, and the Lord has a place for you. It just might be doing something else instead, right? There's many positions to work for the kingdom of the Lord. It doesn't just have to fall into prophecy. But why prophecy is important is because with the way that Satan is running and controlling the world more than ever as the years go by, it's just growing and worse and worse and worse. The prophetic voices are important because they're chosen to be prophetic voices to help those that also are prophetic voices feel empowered and aware of who they are and what they have to go and pave that way towards, like, I wouldn't have known necessarily about what the Lord wanted me to do if I didn't know about prophetic channels before mine. So the Lord didn't just tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, tomorrow I need you to prophesy for me. He first led me to other prophetic voices and their channels on YouTube. And then after, watching that and understanding that this is a thing, because I was in the world, right? I was in the world. Then the Lord has said, been able to kind of chisel me as needed and tune me and train me into where I'm at now. But it was a journey. I've been on the journey now for 2 years and counting, and I'm still not done. I'm still in the basic beginning levels myself, right? So it's a long process. So for those who do have the prophetic gift, just be aware that you're not going to wake up tomorrow prophesying. You will have to be trained up and tuned up by the Lord and pruned like all the other prophets were before you can go ahead and start exercising your gifts. And the Lord will get you to exercise your gifts when the time is right? When the time, so you could think you're ready in 6 months, but the Lord's thinking more like 2 years. You could think you're ready in 2 years, but the Lord's thinking more like 6 months. Everybody's time frame and journey is different, right? For what pertains to them. I've heard of some prophetic voices getting the call from God, and within 6 months they were prophesying, whereas with me, it took me about 1.5 years, right? So everybody's different. So he's saying, just to kind of make it more clear, there are some that have the prophetic gift. And for those, you're either realizing recently that you have the prophetic gift and the Lord is helping to cultivate you in that area, okay? And that's great. Others of you have the prophetic gift, but you're just not aware yet that you have it. It's laying kind of dormant in you, whether that be because you're still in the world or you are just new to the journey with the Lord, or you're no longer in the world, you're on your journey with the Lord, but you're still being put through like the wilderness time, the pruning time, the training time to get that prophetic gift exercised, just like a muscle that needs to be exercised to move properly, right? Correctly. Same thing. Then he's saying on the flip side that there are wicked people that are of the world. They don't have a relationship with the Lord, but they're jealous and envious of those and coveting those that have the gift of prophecy. And he's saying not all, but some of those people. So if you are with the Lord and or have the gift of prophecy, you probably have some closer around you that are, especially if you have the gift of prophecy and you prophesy, that are jealous of the fact that you prophesy. Like I know with myself, he's told me that there's people that go against me that are aware now that I have the channel and I prophesy, and they're envious and jealous of my gift, right? But to them, the Lord and I say, it's not right. You need to repent for that. And you have your own special calling, your own special gifts. Instead of being so worried about what someone else is doing with theirs, you need to go and cultivate your relationship with the Lord, work on it, and then the Lord will guide you into where your talents and gifts lay, right? That he gave you. Like I said, going back to my example, Michael Jordan's great at basketball. I'm not. I can sit all day and be jealous and envious over the fact he's good at basketball, but it's not going to change the fact that he's good at it and I'm not. And that I have a talent over here with, say, cooking. Like I'm good at cooking, so maybe I need to go and work on my gift of cooking, right? And improve that instead of wasting time being stuck, being envious of something I don't have that someone else has, because it's not going to change what they have and what the Lord has for me, if that makes any sense. So for those that are interested in prophecy and you have a relationship with the Lord, this video is also being made to let you know that keep going. It's to encourage you that even if you think sometimes like, well, maybe this isn't for me or whatnot, just go to the Lord for discernment. He will let you know. And if you do have the gift, he's going to help you with exercising it like you would a muscle, and with pruning you and training you, so that eventually your time, when your time comes, your appointed time, your time will come and you too can prophesy like the other prophetic voices that the Lord probably has you tuning into as well, right? And then for those of you who are not, you don't have a relationship with the Lord, you're just wanting to be envious of those that have it, or maybe you're just unsure of where your talents lay. It's maybe not from a wicked point of view. You just, you wish that you could have your purpose revealed to you and have your gifts shown to you so that you know what areas for you to go in and work your talents in. All you need to do is pray to the Lord, and he will show you, he will show you what he needs to show you. Just like with myself, I wasn't thinking, like, I had no idea about the world of prophetic. The Lord led me to the videos. At first it was strange because I was thinking like, why is he taking me here, right? But here we are, fast forward a year and a half later, and now I understand, right? So the Lord knows what he's doing at all times. But if I hadn't been brought to the attention of the prophetic, I wouldn't have been able to eventually exercise and train up my own gift, right? To be able to do it myself. So you always have to start on square one before you can get to square five. So if you prophesying a square five, you have to go through step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 before you get there, right? And I also just want to say to those that are going through it, so to speak, say you do have the gift of prophecy, you're on the righteous side of the Lord, you are in close relationship with him, working on your relationship with him. Don't think it not strange if you're having to leave people behind, if you're having to go into isolation, if you're having to go through any type of lack, emotional lack, mental lack, physical, financial lack. If it seems like all hell's broken loose, literally, because literally it has, hell will be unleashed on you because it's necessary in order to train you. It's just like when Michael Jordan plays for the NBA, he doesn't just wake up one day and off he goes. He has to go through extensive, rigorous training, right, to get to that level. Even though he has the talent inside, he still needs to go through training on a daily basis. It's great that he's great at basketball, but if he didn't work out for 2 months, or he didn't, play the game with anyone, how's he going to stay sharp? How's he going to stay on point? How's he going to keep growing, right? Growing and learning, right? It's the same thing with anyone else's talent. Nothing comes easy. Nothing comes for free, right? So therefore you have to work your, especially if it's new, like if you have been in the world for your whole life or however many years, and then all of a sudden the Lord is trying to nudge you towards prophesying, how are you supposed to just wake up and do that? So, you need to go through kind of like a training process beforehand. And like I said, what's the common thread is that my training process, as far as I know, has been very similar to other prophets' training process as well, where it's all has the common theme of, I had to get purged, I had to leave the world. I had to turn my back on things that were comfortable for me. I had to go through lack, I had to be slandered and talked about and made fun of and lied about, etc. Why? Because it builds your skin. In order to work in prophecy and work with the Lord and stuff, you also will have to deal with Satan. It's just the part and parcel of it, right? And so the Lord needs you to be able to do his work for him whilst being attacked by Satan, because it's just a part of it. So how are you supposed to resist temptation and work for the Lord and go against Satan on a daily basis if, one little lie causes you to crumble, or one little being alone or isolated for 2 days makes you crumble. You know what I'm saying? You need to toughen up your spiritual, mental, emotional skin so that you can cultivate your gift. And of course, that comes with time. Like I said, the spot that I was in this time last year was a lot different than it is this year. And I'm sure I'll be in a different spot next year, right? Because just like with Michael Jordan, say again as the example, as he's playing more seasons in the NBA, he's getting more and more experienced, right? And so we'll see sometimes where the game improves as the longer that, they're being used to being in that, in that position, right? It's the same thing. The more that you go through your spiritual training and the more that you prophesy, the more that you get comfortable, and just like a muscle, the more you exercise it on a regular basis, the stronger it gets, right? It's the same thing. Your gifts get stronger as you exercise them, and you exercise them by the day-to-day training that you have to go through fasting, through worship, through service, prayer, not just reading the Bible, because anyone can, but like studying the Bible, studying scriptures, breaking them down. But again, you couldn't do it without the Lord, right? The Lord leads you through the whole thing. Just like how your Michael Jordan's coach, your basketball coach leads you through the thing as well, right? So it's kind of a teamwork process. Plus the NBA relies on their team. You can't win the championship all by yourself. You need your team. So anyways, the Lord just wanted me to say this, is that he gave me this word this morning saying that there's people that are jealous and envious of those that have the gift of prophecy. And that there's some that recognize it and wish that they could do that in a righteous way. And the Lord respects that, because the gift of prophecy is a gift from the Lord. So he respects the fact that you respect that gift, right? And that he's assuring you have gifts of your own. And for some of you, it is the gift of prophecy. It is. But for others of you, you have gifts in other areas, because not every single person can prophesy, right? Like I was saying before, they're chosen to do it. The ones that do currently prophesy, they all say, including myself, that they were chosen to do it. Just like Mariah Carey didn't wake up at 17 and have that voice. She was born with it, right? Same with Michael Jordan's talent. It just took time when they were older to cultivate it. You can't sing like she does at 7. That had to take maturity in order to develop it. And it's, to get to where it can start, right? Same thing with Michael Jordan's basketball talent, and same thing with your gift of prophecy. It takes time. You need to be more mature. Not one of the prophets that I know of are under the age of 20. You know what I mean? Maybe even 25. They're all like in their, kind of later 20s, 30s, things like that, right? Because you need to be more, you need life experience, wisdom, maturity in order for the Lord to be able to say, okay, now's the time that we can harvest and cultivate and use that gift that's been laying dormant in you all these years. For others, he's saying that it's coming from a wicked place, that they're envious and jealous of it, spawned by Satan. And in that case, he wants you to repent and stop doing what you're doing and just go to the Lord and find out what your gifts are, because trying to thwart or stop someone's prophetic gift isn't going to work for you, for one, and for two, it's just going to cause wrath for you. Just like I can kick, scream, and stomp that Mariah Carey can sing great and I can't. It's not going to change that I can't and she can. It's not, you know what I mean? I'm best off to go find where my talents lie, right? So that's what the Lord is saying as well. And then for those that have been entered already in the prophetic field, just keep going. You are going to face adversity. You are going to face struggles and hardships. That's a part of it. Just like I say, I'm sure that Michael Jordan had, days he was tired, days he was exhausted, days he was sick, and he still had to train up for the season, things like that, right? So, so anyways, I hope that this blesses whoever comes across it. I hope it makes sense, and God bless.